Hey everyone, and welcome to episode number 35 of the Game Space Game Show. My name is Dame, and we're going to have a conversation about some things that are going on this week in video games. And with me are my two hosts, one of the members of Game Space's Wolfpack, Ralph. How are you doing tonight?
Doing excellent. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm glad to be here to talk about some stuff that I'm pretty hyped about. But speaking about hyped, I cannot believe it, but we have with us here tonight on the Game Space Game Show, Spider-Man from Earth 2735, Steven. How are you doing this evening?
Hey guys, doing well, doing swell, and just swinging around the city, saving people. You know how it goes.
Right. Now I have to ask about the gravity there on Earth 2735. Do you have to have any special equipment to be able to get around the city, web swinging wise? Are you doing the whole like natural web thing, or do you got a little tech action going on?
You got to have web shooters, which
okay.
I do have. I definitely have some web shooters. They're very nice web shooters. And you should also have webs in those web shooters so that you can swing around the city as necessary. And then it also helps to have like spider agility and spider strength. Pretty much anything with spider on it, I would say it would be necessary to do what I do.
But do you have spider pigeon detection? Because I imagine that swinging around the city, you got to have that. Otherwise, you're going to get like, Fabio, face full of goose, thing going on.
Well, what's strange? That is something that you have to have because a lot of times you can find me swinging around the city trying to obtain pigeons.
Okay.
That is actually something that you have to do is swing around and capture pigeons. So, you're very, very astute there. You are, Dame.
Well, I try to do my homework on our guests before we have them on the show. So we're very, very glad to have you here because tonight we're going to be talking about two major releases that happened this week. One that you were very, very excited about and one that I am very, very excited about. And Ralph is just here excited about everything. So
that's right. Yeah.
so that's good. But before we get into that conversation, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on in gaming news this week. We got word that THQ is buying the Kingdom of Amalur series. Now, Ralph, you seem pretty excited about that. Are you a Kingdom fan?
I wouldn't exactly say fan. Like I played a little bit of it, but when I first heard, like when it first came out, there was talks about it being an MMO, and I was super excited for that. So I'm excited that maybe, hopefully, possibly, we might see that happen because I've been needing a new MMO so bad.
Gotcha. For me, I haven't played any of the games, but I have a friend who is really, really into them. And his impression was the same. It was the same thing. It was the same way. It was, hey, this thing is supposed to be an MMO. This would make for a really great MMO. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of good gameplay, and it was one of those series that just kind of seemed like a little bit of a sleeper that you didn't hear much about it, but the people that really enjoyed them really, really enjoyed them. What about you, Steven? Have you had any interaction with the Kingdom of Amalur series?
I own it, but I have not played it, strangely enough. It just was one of those games where I was waiting for them to expand on it a little bit, and then they shut down, and I was like, well, I'm not going to play it now, because that's happened to me before where I've played a game that I really enjoyed, and then the game was discontinued, and it leaves me with a cliffhanger or something where I wanted more, and I couldn't get it, and then I was just bummed about it for the rest of my life, and I'm still depressed about it, and I may never recover, basically, is how I feel about it.
Well, I hope that somewhere, somehow, you do get over that. Speaking of games that are closing down, we also got word that Carbine is closing down WildStar. Were either of you guys WildStar players?
I was, yeah, and Ralph was too. Me and Ralph both.
Yep.
Played it.
I created a character that looked like Rhett McLaughlin from Rhett and Link at one point in time, and I played like maybe 30 minutes of the intro, but that was pretty much it.
I think it was like, in my opinion, like a little bit of a sleeper game, but like not a lot of people could get into it because like it came along at like a really weird time, possibly in gaming for it. But I played it off and on. But the thing that stopped me from constantly playing it was that I couldn't open my closed beta boxes. Like,
Gotcha.
They did it once a day, and I was like, well, I'll play it for this time, open it, do some quests, and log off, and then it was that kind of relationship.
Gotcha. So it became a little bit more about opening the daily loot box than it did actually playing the game.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand how that goes. That can be really, really super frustrating to have to be like, oh well, I got to log in today so I can do the thing. Almost becomes a job at that point in time. But speaking of jobs, we've got some video that's going on here on the stream. This is a look here at Spider-Man. So, Steven, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with this, because you have been going hard at this game for like the last 24 hours or so.
I have,
or at least
maybe not
the last 12.
20. Yeah, as much as I could possibly do it without dying. And let's see what we got here. So, a lot's been going on in the Spider universe for those who are not familiar with this. It's a PS4 game, and I know a lot of people are unhappy about that. I get a lot of people who join my streams and they're saying, well, I've got an Xbox and I hate the world, and I understand it because Insomniac Games did a phenomenal job at about pretty much everything Spider-Man that you could possibly do a good job at. From the world to the way he moves to the way he acts, and you can see and everyone out there on the podcast, definitely check out the live stream of this episode. You can see that I've got the Scarlet Spider costume on, which is a pretty cool little costume, but you have the option to change costumes at will after you get to a certain point.
Which will?
Yeah. And essentially it's just a really amazing game. I mean, I can't say that they could have done anything that would have made me any happier. There's not anything that I find myself still wanting at this point, because the story is still unfolding and I'm still trying to uncover everything about this new world, which is a new world from what people may be comfortable with from the comics and the cartoons and the movies. It's a very different world here. A lot of the characters that we know are not quite fleshed out yet.
Sure.
And a lot of the villains that you may be hoping to see may not be at that point where they're villains yet. So sure. Even though you think you know what's going to happen, you definitely don't, and it's making it a fantastic and enjoyable experience all the way through.
Well, that's kind of one of the interesting things with the Spider-Verse is that you've got the kind of open-ended narrative there, where okay, this is a different Earth, this is a different. I assume you're playing as Peter Parker.
Yep.
Okay, so you have a different Peter Parker, and so if Peter's different, then certainly there are things in the world that are probably different too. I think it's a good choice. I think it's a really, really good choice because I mean, I guess for somebody like me who has a basic understanding of Spider-Man's history and a little bit of the comics, there are so many different series that have run over the courses of the years that it's hard to keep track of. Okay, now is this Incredible Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man or
Spider-Dash-Man?
Yeah, Spider-Dash-Man or Spider-Space-Man or Spider Policeman. You know, I mean, there are so many Spider-Mans that it's hard to keep track of.
Spider-Mans.
All sorts of all of the Spider-Mans. So, and some Spider-Women's too. It's very, very true. So, Steven, as somebody who is pretty in the know about comics and the various Spider-Men and women, what would you say, like, the take for this game? You know, how do they handle Peter? Is he a little bit more the kind of laid back sort of guy? Is he sure of himself and his powers? Like, at what point are we getting to interact with him as Spider-Man?
So that's a fantastic question, and this is the cool thing about this Spider-Man game is that they did a prequel novel to it, called Spider-Man: Hostile Takeover. And I read it ahead of time, so I kind of understood what was going on. And essentially what it is there's Peter Parker, who's been Spider-Man for about 8 years. He's had some run-ins with criminals such as the Kingpin, and as well as like the Lizard and Electro, and pretty much a lot of the big villains that people are already kind of aware of. And so he's kind of a seasoned Spider-Man right now. He's also kind of had a relationship with Mary Jane for a long time, and so she's already very well established. And in the book, before you even get into the game, you find that Kingpin's come back, and there's all this crime going on in the city still, and him and Mary Jane are kind of on the rocks, and he's having trouble, like all Spider-Men do, of mixing both the superhero life and his real life. Well, I mean, it's all his real life, but his working life, right?
Yes.
So we kind of start there, and then we kind of move on to what happens after that. And I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but it's definitely something that I would say kind of toes the Peter Parker line a little bit, but the world that you're coming into is completely different than the other Spider-Men series that we've seen in the comics and the movies and everything like that. The characters, the villains feel a lot more raw. They feel more real, and the impacts, everything you do has implications. So it's definitely different, but it still has, like, you'll still know it's a Spider-Man game and that it's Peter Parker. Obviously.
Okay. So what would you say right now are some of the things that that impress you the most about the game as it is?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's a PlayStation 4 game and it's on console. And even though I have the PlayStation 4 Pro, I have to say that graphically it's pretty amazing. Also, the breadth of the world, I mean, it's enormous. The amount of things to do so far is pretty impressive. There's a bunch of different collections. It's just they've made such an amazing work, a masterpiece of a Manhattan, of a New York City experience. It's unlike anything I've played in terms of Spider-Man, and pretty much any game, really. They've done a very good job. And I know that there's other games coming out, and I don't want to go too far into them, but I know that games like The Last of Us and New Tomb Raider and everything, they're kind of going for the same kind of feel. Like this one kind of has a kind of Batman Arkham feel a little bit.
Sure.
In the terms of combat, but as far as just like being completely open, being a gorgeous world, and making it feel as realistically Spider-Man as possible, it all impresses me. They did an amazing job.
Now, it looks right now from the video like you're hanging off of... Is that Avengers Tower that you're hanging off of?
I think it actually is.
Okay.
Yeah, which is crazy because I've been running around this game for I don't know how long, and this is the first time I've seen the Avengers Tower, and I just happened to be on it.
That's awesome. So yeah, it looked like there we go. There's a great shot of that. What I absolutely love, and this is something that really impresses me, is that you have this incredible scope of, you have some of those high towers like that, but then you also have the street level stuff going on too. Yep. You know, you were just a couple of minutes ago, you were dashing through the streets, pulling guys out of cars, and then you're up on Avengers Tower, and it's looks pretty solid, man. I may have to take a look into this, because I'm digging this. This looks really good.
Here's what I like about it is I like they did a really good job on the different costumes and adding in the different effects based on the costumes that you're wearing, based on the spider costumes.
So they all have some type of different perk to them?
Not all of them, but some of them do.
Oh, well, nice.
I mean, only like the first one that you start out with doesn't really have a perk to it. All the rest of them do, and the cool thing about it is the perks can be switched around to different suits. So if you're like, oh hey, I really like the way that the Fear Itself suit looks, but I want to use the power from the advanced suit or something like that, you can swap those powers around so that you have the suit that you want, but you have the powers that you want too. So you never have to sacrifice something to look like the Spider-Man you want to be.
Oh, that's amazing.
Pretty cool.
That's amazing. So do they have the symbiote suit?
I have not found it yet, and I've had a lot of people come on my stream and give me spoilers about what suits I can expect. Nobody said anything about the symbiote suit or the Back in Black suit yet, and honestly, I don't think that they're going to have it. I think they're going to save it for an expansion, because
that's fair.
That's a way to bring it back. Honestly, and I've been talking about this. At this point, we don't even know if there's a Venom, if there's a Carnage, if
that's true. Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, I mean, we know. I've seen. I don't want to spoil who I've seen so far, but there's been a lot of characters that I've seen that I didn't, think about seeing in this game. Sure. And then they've also already kind of teased the DLC for the for Black Cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's already kind of left you some clues that she's around. So that's not really a spoiler because they've already teased it. So I don't feel bad about that one, guys. But.
Excellent. So, Steven, I know you've been super hyped about this. Ralph, you've been pretty hyped about it too, right?
Yes, because I like Steven, I'm also a bit of a comic book fan, and I grew up on Spider-Man, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the game. I did spoil myself with all the suits so far that are in the game. Because I'm more into I'm really into the whole switching of the costumes and being able to play all the Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're going to be flying through Manhattan and fighting crime, gotta look good doing it, right?
Yep.
So this is a game that's been pretty hyped for a really, really long time. And as we all know, and we have all been burned by this, sometimes the hype is just too much, and it gets in the way of the actual game that we end up getting at the end. So, what is your initial gut on this, Steven? Is it worth the hype? Was the hype? Did it do it justice, or is it fallen short in any place that you hoped that, or at least it was presented to you as?
It's really tough to determine because I was really hyped about it, but I was hyped for another reason. I'm already kind of a little bit biased, so I'm a big superhero fan, and that kind of makes it tough for me to say definitively whether or not. I guess that does in a way put the hype a little bit higher for somebody like me, and
sure.
In that situation, as far as strictly fan speaking goes, it delivered for me because you know, there's a big kind of stigma that goes along with games with established characters that you know how things are going to go, and then you expect things to go that way, and there's a way where sometimes it doesn't go that way, and then you get disappointed, and then, you know, because they just don't do it well enough. But I think that they're doing the story in such a way where even if you know what's going to happen, or you think you know what's going to happen, they still really push the boundaries of how it's done, and they do it so well. It's there's nothing that I can complain about right now, honestly. Excellent.
Well, you know, I definitely appreciate your insight and your opinion on it, because I mean, you are one of our resident. I mean, you guys have the Hero Signal, which is your podcast on all things superheroes. So, you know, I expect great things when it comes to your review. When can we be looking for that?
So I'm supposed to do the review, have it out by Monday, and I'm trying to get through as much of the game as I possibly can, because I didn't get to do an early start on this one. So I'm saying Monday's probably the earliest that you're going to see it, probably latest on Tuesday, but a very thorough review is going to be there whenever it's time.
I believe it, and I am looking forward to it.
Same.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
No problem, man. No problem.
Yeah, why don't you get into the thing that you're really interested, though? Yeah, you're really interested in something specific. Yes. And I know you've been just waiting for this crazy Spider-Man talk to just die down so you could bring up something about that little thing next to you on your left there, right?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but I do want to clarify and say that, you know, I am very, very interested in Spider-Man, so please don't diminish that. I like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, you know, and I'm glad to see him come back in a good game. I mean, I really enjoyed Spider-Man: Homecoming, and seeing Tom Holland's Peter Parker. The MCU Spider-Man has been really good. But anyway, all of that to say, I don't diminish. I do not begrudge you the time to talk about the thing that you love. Because I would ask you to do the same for me.
He's about to.
All right. So last week I kind of teased this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and pull this little guy up here.
Oh my god!
So this is my ghost. He took a little trip with me out to a little studio called Bungie last week. And the wonderful people from the Destiny 2 Forsaken team humored me and signed my ghost. But that was the thing I couldn't talk about last week, and I wanted to talk about it so badly. But big thanks to Accommodations. I got to kind of say this just because all cards on the table. Activision did pay for me to go out there. They provided all the accommodations for me and stuff like that. So I guess you could technically say that this is a sponsored spot-ish. Just a full disclosure out there. But yeah, I had the opportunity to go out last week to Bungie and to preview Destiny 2 Forsaken, play through the first story mission, play through Gambit, and just explore the world a bit. And I've got a couple of videos that are out on MMORPG's YouTube page, so you can check those out. But with the release of Forsaken this week, I have been rolling hard at that, and it has not disappointed. If you followed Destiny 1 at all, the first expansion, Taken King, was very, very well received and regarded as probably one of the high points in the Destiny franchise, and Forsaken is a return to that level of excellence. They've just done a lot of things that have really, really improved the way the game is played, have improved the delivery of narrative and story, have improved the gear grind, and there's so much to get lost in. As far as the world that Bungie's created, the characters that they're developing, and to see the progression of characters so far in that has just been really good. I just finished playing through the story campaign last night, and there were some moments within the story where I was left speechless because there are some echoes of some things to come within Destiny that I think that this may be a new golden age for the game.
Nice.
Yes.
So, anyways, I'm super hyped about it. They added a new PvP VE mode called Gambit, which is really interesting, especially for guys who really don't like PvP. It's kind of an interesting thing where you have 2 teams of 4, and you go up against a random enemy type, and with every enemy type that you kill, you collect motes of light, and for 5, 10, or 15 motes, you can send blockers over to the other team's field to block their progress of turning motes in. The kicker of this is if you die while holding onto motes, you lose all of them. So it's a big risk-reward thing of, do you hang on to your motes and bank 15 at a time and send a large blocker over there, or do you risk getting taken out by the enemies on the field, or your opponent that every once in a while can come over to your side and wreak havoc? It's really, really interesting. And then after your team collects 75 motes, you summon a primeval. First one to take out a primeval wins the match, and it kind of goes into a best 2 out of 3 sort of deal. So one of the matches that we played at Bungie was super tight. It was first game to the opposing team, second game to my team, and then we ended up getting smoked in the end. But it was satisfying. It was very, very satisfying to be able to do some type of competitive gameplay like that.
That sounds like a really fun mode. Being as I wasn't really that much into the PvP back in Destiny 1, and still even in Destiny 2, I'm still not into that. But that mode sounds really fun to me.
Yeah,
I can get into that.
Yeah, Crucible and Iron Banner are kind of those things where, if you really like shooter PvP, then I mean, it's kind of an interesting mix of your kind of deathmatch or objective based PvP stuff. Mm-hmm. But with the Gambit, it adds it's an entirely new thing. It's an entirely new layer of competitive play that I think has the option, or it has the opportunity to either be really big for the competitive scene, or even the casual player that I'll give you an example. One of the reasons why my team got beat out that second match was that their team got together and decided, hey, you know what? There's this one player on our team. It's not as great with shooting, but can collect motes and turn them in. So they had 3 people gunning stuff down while one guy was collecting all the motes and doing all the turn-ins. And so you have these different strategies that you can use within it. So I'm really, really enjoying the game. One of the things that's been a really huge improvement is that they've added new ways to get gear. Which has always been one of the frustrating things about Destiny and Destiny 2, that gear grind of, okay, now I'm at end game and I don't want to run the Crucible to get new engrams and to get new powerful gear. There are actually challenges that are set up throughout the world, or I should say throughout the galaxy, that you can find the challenges that suit you, and there are bounties that you can complete, and they've just added so many layers of things to the game that have just they've really taken the initial labeling of Destiny as an MMO. And they've really started leaning into some of those things, of asking the question of how can we do this better from a multiplayer standpoint? How can we provide more content for the player at different levels? So whether it's like guided games through the raids, or whether it's through the bounty system or the challenges. That stuff is all kind of layered to add more options for gaining gear.
Right. It sounds like they've done quite a bit, and it doesn't sound like it disappoints at all.
No, I think that right now, if I were to have any complaint, I would say that right now, It's more of that I'm curious of what's going to happen next, and how some of the things that took place within Destiny 2 Year 1 are going to tie into where Destiny is right now.
Right.
And that's always been, I think, the biggest struggle with Destiny is you have these overarching stories of things that are going on, but then you have these little vignettes of that are like kind of an isolated episodic content that you kind of wonder, okay, now what does this mean for the bigger story?
Right.
Going back into the Year 1 content, people are still wondering, okay, so we have the return of Osiris, who is a pretty big name in Destiny lore. So what does that mean now for the Warlocks, or even the Vanguard? Is he going to take his place then on the Vanguard? Or you have in Warmind, you get to meet Rasputin, who was this kind of he was talked about all throughout Destiny 1 as this golden age, all power. Yes, this all-powerful golden age computer, and suddenly, not only do you get to meet him, but your last interaction with him are kind of sketchy, and so it kind of leaves it in this place of like, okay, so now what does that mean? Yes, right. He's still going to protect humanity, but in his own way. What does that look like? So yeah, I think right now, like that's kind of my biggest thing, is that like I hate looking at a game from the standpoint of looking at, okay, well, what's next? I want to be able to enjoy the experience of playing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm, and with the Year 2 content that they've laid out, I know that there are going to be some more things that are weaved throughout the year. But it's just a matter of, okay, is this going to have the staying power? Are there going to be enough things going on within the world and within the seasons that they have marked out that are going to keep players coming back,
right,
and continuing to answer some of those questions of what's next? One of the big questions that's on a lot of players' minds is, okay, Cade 6 is dead. The Vanguard has always existed as an organization of representatives from each one of the Guardian classes. So is somebody going to take his place? Well, the Speaker is also dead. So where are we getting our information from the Traveler? There's all sorts of, there are all sorts of questions that are left unanswered, that some of them are really exciting for what can happen next.
And I don't know if I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, because I swear I haven't played it, but I have watched people go through the story already. But as far as the Traveler being dead is concerned, and how are they going to get that information from him? It seems like maybe it's going to come from Ikora, maybe?
Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because one of the things at the very beginning of the game that Ikora says is that she started to have like these visions, or she started to see these things from the Traveler, and so that's, and there's some of that, and I'm trying to ride that line of not spoiling things while still talking about the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But
so yeah, I don't know.
There's another question as well.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that we used to be able to take engrams to the Cryptarch to get them all decrypted, but now just picking them up, they're automatically decrypted.
So that was actually something in Destiny 2 that was a bit of an improvement, and I like that. Most of the engrams that you pick up do decrypt once you pick them up. Every once in a while, though, you will pick up, I believe they're calling them prime engrams now.
Oh.
And you have to take those to Master Raoul.
Okay, because that's what I was like, what is the point of him now then if they're all just gonna decrypt?
Just to listen to him talk, right? Some of the best cryptarchs are not known by name, but by the quality of their work.
Oh, how much I've yelled at him whenever that statement came out, and I did not get a legendary or exotic.
Right. Like, we know your name, Raoul. We know your name. So it's been a good experience. It's been a really, really good experience. I'm really pleased with how they've done, with the changes that they've made in Forsaken. One of the other points that's actually really, really good and really worth noting is that Bungie partnered with High Moon Studios to make Forsaken. And I know that High Moon is another like Activision partner. But you see their influence on the Lost sectors mainly. The Lost sectors in the Tangled Shore all have a little bit of story to them, or they have a little bit more character to them, other than just a secret space where you go in and wreck shop and then get loot and leave. There are some really interesting Easter eggs that exist, including one where I don't know if you remember when Destiny 1 was released, that they had Paul McCartney record some song that was included. Yeah, so there's a Lost sector that actually has that playing in the background.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, so when you walk in, it's like, what? Why is Paul McCartney here? This shouldn't be a thing.
Nice.
So
I can't wait to get my hands on it.
It's been a satisfying experience. As always, Destiny is one of my favorite franchises right now. I've really thoroughly enjoyed my experience with the games. Hence all of the tormenting about giving it a 10 out of 10 when it was first released. So I'll own it. But
well, you don't really have a choice at this point. Man.
I don't. Considering now that I get to use the label Destiny Partner, I'm gonna own that. Sure, absolutely. Well, guys, I think that we're gonna go ahead and move into the questions of what are you up to, what are you playing. I've already talked about what I'm playing, but I'll share a little bit about what I'm up to later. Steven, what do you got going on, man?
Oh no, you know what I'm doing.
Yeah, we're watching.
Everyone can see what I'm doing at the moment, and I'm not going to stop doing this until there's nothing left to do. But yeah, so I'm going to be playing Spider-Man quite a bit. This is not the only thing I'm playing. I've also been playing a game called Battle Chef Brigade, which I have a review for that coming out in the next week as well. Two reviews in 1 week. That's crazy for me whenever you consider that one of those is Spider-Man and I can't stop playing it. So, but I am going to tell you one thing. As good as Spider-Man is, Battle Chef Brigade is also one of the most amazing games I've ever played. I love it. I love everything, and I think you would love it too, Dame. It's got a lot of it's got cooking, but it also has monster battles. And
you got monster battles.
You gotta kill your monsters, and then you gotta cook them. It's like Iron Chef, but not. It's
What?
a very cool game. Yeah, it's like Iron Chef, but you have to kill the monsters that you cook.
Do you at least have the chairman that comes out before every match and goes, "A la cuisine"?
Yes, you do.
All right.
It's so good. It's
All
so
right.
freaking good. So 2 great games coming out this week, and if you're not sure about them, then definitely read the reviews on them. And that is what I'm working on. This is what I'm playing this week.
Excellent. And you have a pretty thematic show that the Hero Signal. We talked a little bit about this earlier.
Yes.
It's a superhero-centric show. So what kind of content can people expect from that this week?
So this week we're going to be doing. Let me get. Okay, there we go. It gets hot in my Spider-Man outfit. I don't know how he does that all day. So this week we just released our second podcast last week. You can check us out. The same podcast that. The same places that you find this podcast, you can also find the Hero Signal podcast. We're on all the same things, and if you actually just check out everything made by me, you'll be able to see all the podcasts that we do, because we're going to be doing a few more things. But we just released our first episode of Story Arc, which tells the story arc of the prequel for Spider-Man, and then I think Ralph is going to be working on a story arc. He's already kind of started on one, from what I hear. And we're going to be doing. We've released a lot of content this past week, and we're going to be releasing more content. A lot of stuff on some mobile games, superhero related, and a lot of stuff on Spider-Man. We're going to be going through all the suits, what they do, how they activate their powers, what those powers do, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in superheroes, the Hero Signal is the place to be this week.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. Ralph, what about you, man? Obviously, we heard that you're going to be working on some stuff for the Hero Signal, so why don't you tell us what you got?
Yeah, what I'm going to be working on is story arcs for My Hero Academia. So right now I'm working on the first story arc. Now that is a bit confusing, kind of, when it comes to fan theories of what a story arc is, if you want to go by manga or by anime. But I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to go by season arcs. So do it in seasons instead.
Awesome.
But that's what I'm going to be working on. And as far as what I'm playing, just been spending a lot of time dabbling inside Neverwinter.
Okay.
Because they got the Acquisitions Incorporated thing coming up, and I'm a big fan of Acquisitions Incorporated.
Nice.
Gotcha. I was just gonna ask about that. I did see something about that was gonna be dropping sometime soon. And I was actually sharing with Ralph before the show that I just started watching My Hero Academia and really enjoying it.
Yes.
It's been a fantastic ride so far. So I cannot wait to keep tearing into that. So
we're gonna have to talk about it more once we're off. We can't go into it too much, but you know what? If it does interest you, whenever the next season ends, maybe we'll get you on the show to talk about the finale of that season. And that
yeah,
okay.
That story is going places, man. It's going places.
I'm like, I think halfway through season 3 right now, so I am really intrigued to see where that goes.
Nice.
So it'll be good. As for me, I already told you guys what I've been playing. I've been playing gobs and gobs of Destiny 2 Forsaken and enjoying every moment of it. Actually, just kind of a small confession here. I switched systems that I've been playing on, so I kind of started fresh on PC. So yeah,
I was going to ask.
Yeah, so I had been playing on PlayStation 4. And then recently have been in the process of building a PC, which actually you'll see some reviews for some parts coming up here. Actually did a first impressions on a power supply from NZXT, the E850. That just released on MMO. Just to to clarify, it is not a review, considering that I do not have the equipment and voltage meters and all of that jazz to be able to do all of the heavy load testing that's required for a full review like that. But anyway, whatever the case may be, that's out there right now. And as the hat kind of gives it a little bit away, I'm going to be reviewing the Aorus Gaming 7 Wi-Fi motherboard. That's an A4 socket motherboard over there at MMO. Currently working on that review right now. So those are a couple of the stuff and things. But yeah, all that to say that I switched platforms, and I've not regretted that choice. The game is gorgeous on PC, but anyway, all of that.
As opposed to what you were playing it on before, or as opposed to a Mac?
As opposed to what I was playing it on before, thank you very much, because I did play it on my Mac. I did, and it looked gorgeous, and it ruined me for playing it on the console.
Those guys in their truck. Yeah. I'm really interested to see how you're liking all of it, how you're liking all that stuff, because it's been a long time coming that you were talking about doing this PC thing. So I want to know how it's going to be working out for you.
It has been. We are just rounding out week 1 with the system fully operational. I had a couple of hardware issues that were some things I had to kind of figure out what was going on where and with what. And when you have all new parts that you're putting into a system and trying to figure out what's what without having them operational in another machine, it's a little bit weird to try to narrow those things down. But we figured it out, and everything is stable now. So that's good. Aside from that, just recorded the first episode of season 5 for Roll the Level, my personal podcast. That's the running conversation about life, God, and video games in no particular order. And we actually had a really incredible conversation talking about Destiny 2 Forsaken, and talking a little bit about justice and forgiveness and stuff like that in that conversation. So you can find that on iTunes and all of the places that you find your podcasts. Were pretty much there. So that's what I've got going on for me. Any final words before we close this thing out here tonight, guys?
Live and learn.
That's a good one. Should we go with the old with great power comes great responsibility? I mean, I am Spider-Man.
I suppose we could, and because
I think if you say that, you have to be zipped up.
Okay, all right. Let me get this.
All right. And for those of you out in podcast land, Steven is wearing a zip-up Spider-Man hoodie that zips all the way up over his face, and covers his face, and it really is kind of an awkward look.
It is. The weirdest thing about it is that the eyes don't line up. I just kind of noticed that. I'm kind of like cross-eyed. I'm a cross-eyed Spider-Man. I'm like Bizarro Spider-Man almost. Like it's very weird. That's even a thing?
Well, and you look like you have no neck too.
I know.
It's like yoked. It's like yoked cross-eyed Spider-Man. Which, hey, I mean, in the multiple Spider-Verse, there could be one. So, and
I'm sure there is one. There's got to be somewhere.
And so you are he. But on that note, guys, thank you so much for joining us here tonight at the Game Space Game Show. For Steven, Ralph, and myself, Dame, we will see you next time.
Bye.
Laters.